Hey everybody, and welcome back. Another live stream with the Mohawk Forex True Scalping. It's all about in and out quick, no messing around. And this is our new system. Still using our Axe trading system, our boutique trading system that group. Use strategy, breakout strategy going, and then scalping strategy that we use. Plus we trade the news as well, and which today we're going to be trading the JOLTS. See on my chart here, got the JOLTS job openings, a precursor to NFP, which will be Friday. So we're getting ready. It's a warm up with the JOLTS job openings, predicted to be less, so we'll see what we get. As after 10 minutes. So we've set up on NAS 100. Those you smaller account, NAS is a trade to margin bridge. So 5-minute time frame. Axe trading system. And as you can see, identified a breakout zone. Trade one candle side way. And we're also going to true scalp the open based on our indicators. Add some tips with slide here. Got our trend bar, RSI scanner. These indicators are unique to everyone. Remember, if you want to know how to get access to all this and use it and true scalp, then you www.mohawkforex.com. So we set up on NAS, set up on S30. I identified as here. I'm just that's base. We've had a bit of a move already. Users off cable, and we're going to be our New York cable line. We've already had wins on our Asian cable trade today, and then we're going to cable trade as well. We've already identified our lines and what we're looking at. Gold thrown into the mix as well. Gold trades is, and we had some nice wins on DAX earlier on. Open, lovely breakout. Selling this and up our breakout zone, which is successful morning. But we're focusing really on NAS 30. They're the ones I get some movement on. We've got a Fed speech as well at the same time. And then to finish things off later on tonight, as the market closes, we've got the API crude oil stock change with traders, and we've had, which what he says, good win rate on trading our system. So we're all loaded up. IC Markets is my choice of broker for scalping. It's a 1 to 500 leverage I'm using. Small account, small lot sizes. I'm just using 1 and 2, not 2. That's 30. 150 to trade these. So and you need ideally you need an account size of about $1,000. You can handle it. Draw down any quick spikes or insert and wipe out the old stop loss hunting that goes on the hour or so. We say count the better. Lot size just means you've got a bit more safety in it. Okay, we know happens. So NAS is shaping up. See where the nice sell here. Range again on a sell, a range, sell, another pack. And Yeah, it's all about the earnings. We've got Bloomberg load normal. Just
half of 1%. Yield just a little bit lower this morning and now higher by a basis point on a 10-year to 258. This is
Tickmill, shaping the future of trading.
happens on the open.
With exception.
I know you're pretty good. Ooh, I don't like that. I will take this.
This is the last candle of a breakout zone. We've identified the
Not cool. Not cool.
gap
Right.
belt.
I will
50
concede.
pips.
I can see.
Points on.
Got me beat.
So that's kind of the target we will look at.
Thank you, sir.
And US 30, it's a bit more. It has pulled back, but it's still 1,000. Quite a big range. Usually I say the see on this scalpel. Hazard. Pretty much 63. So we're just counting down to the open now.
5 minutes away from the opening bell. Equity shaping up as follows. Down just a little bit by 0.5%. You understand the big debate on Wall Street right now. Goldman weighing in earlier this morning saying we're getting too complacent too soon in this equity market. I'll build on those comments a little bit later. In the bond market, you saw some firmness into treasuries. That eases just a little bit as this session grows a little bit older. Yields higher at the front end by 5 basis points. And we erased a bit into the 10-year, pretty much unchanged on 10s right now.
So you're trying to look, we've got a nice.
That's the story. Your
can
price
see.
action. Here's your morning calls. First up, Susquehanna upgrading Pinterest to positive, $35 price target, highlighting the company's resilient results and solid engagement metrics. Next up, BMO initiating coverage on Constellation Brands with an outperform rating, expecting demand for alcoholic beverages to remain resilient. And finally, BTIG downgrading Snowflake to neutral, saying recent field checks indicate a potential slowdown in revenue growth. That stock is down by 4.6%. Coming up, futures under a little bit of pressure as earnings season marches on. G Square's Victoria Green says the C-suite has the eyes on execution, and that conversation is up next.
Interesting. 2 minutes 34, counting down. As you can see, we've got a nice zone now. Price is just bouncing off our breakout zone. Stochastic is heading down. We're in neutral zones. Look, all kind of open scenario where look to bouncy, and then we'll wait for a breakout. If you get in straight on the move, yes. Cable trade, which is still about. Trade that along with the JOLTS at the same time. Gold will leave. Build up gold on Friday, of course. Pretty much NAS and Dow in the you know, the advantage as you need smaller, you have a smaller account size trade. US 30 with IC markets is the biggest account size for trade them outside. Those guys who've got 1,000
in terms of green funding.
The Key administration has committed to doubling the amount of investments in so-called green technologies. I think we need more than just pronouncements. We need real money backing very innovative startups and innovative companies in this space.
What do you make of Kishida's new capitalism?
Well, I think his framework is reflective of the challenges that Japan
seconds left. We'll just load broker.
That growth has been present, but growth has not been, of course, evenly distributed. But frankly speaking, it's hard to redistribute income if you don't have much income to begin with. If the government and private
baseline, which is perfect, as you say,
to drive more innovative growth startups, that can really drive the income growth that the Kishida government needs to redistribute.
CFOs are reshaping the C-suite, positioning companies to meet the next generation of challenges, breaking out of traditional roles to become Chief Future Officer. MasterCard is
we're going to set a TP of about 10 pips.
out into new products and services. It's up to CFO Sasha
Out we don't.
to ensure this growth strategy pays off.
Yeah, right. Look, see, let's see.
Environment is to have a diversified portfolio.
Chief Future Officer, Wednesday on Bloomberg. Brought to you by Workday.
BSO Now is your online home for weekly Boston Symphony Orchestra and Boston Pops performances.
Oh.
See new concerts that go behind the scenes, plus acclaimed archival concerts. Visit bso.org/now, where the music plays on. BSO season sponsor, Bank of America.
We're out. Yay. Right, so we got... managed to get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 trades away there. And we got 50, 60, 70, 80. We got about 100 bucks. Results. Go, we're in and out.
24 seconds away from the opening bow this morning. Good morning. Just a little bit defensive. You follow
Trade 6 trades. Move.
On the Nasdaq, down about 0.8%. On headline watch out of Taiwan, as we expect Speaker Pelosi to land in the next hour or so. That's the equity picture. There's your opening bow. Switch on the board to the bond market. Yields look like this on 10s, up a couple of basis points. They were down 4 earlier, now up 2 to 259.64, but well below where we were earlier on this year, in the middle of June, close to 350. What a move lower, monster move lower that we've seen. Bit of dollar strength out there against the euro. Euro dollar 102.26 with negative a third of 1%.
Yeah, we've got 3 more trades. We've got another 20 bucks up there as well.
On WTI, up about 0.6% or so.
So, not too many.
Well, John, we do have stocks a bit low.
See the break now coming. So,
in almost 3 weeks. Let's take a look at what's weighing the most, and of course,
spot on.
Take a look there. Amazon.
Wait for a pullback. You don't want to be entering again now.
Up about 0.2% right now on a track for a 5-day
so we're only kind of
so
like
maybe we'll see some sort of a bullish reversal as the day goes
we've made
on.
over 125 bucks there in 1 minute. That's not bad. Scalping. So we're only using the smallest lot size use on it.
Just slightly. Now where we're seeing big gains, of course, Uber up 10.9%.
See what this
a very solid beat there relative
30, US 30 went the opposite way.
Revenues growing by 105%.
A nice buy now.
Very
34.
resilient despite all the inflationary pressures. And then
there
finally, Pinterest, the really big winner on the day, up 17%. Elliott Management, of course, is now a top holder, and revenues and especially monthly average users came in better than expected, basically unchanged to down a little bit on a year-over-year basis. But again, perception, expectations, everything, they beat.
I have no idea how to use Pinterest still. Avi, thank you. Someone does, because that's why the stock is up. The equity market's down a third of 1% on the S&P. The Nasdaq down by 0.5%. The S&P 500 just a little bit softer. The Nasdaq Golden Dragon China Index down 2% at the open. That sounds like something Taylor Riggs will look at. Hey, Taylor.
John, and you're right. A lot of the big moves that we continue to see are within the equity markets, but we do want to go cross-asset for you on this program, and we'll start with some of the dollar strength. Again, today, a little bit of that sort of flight to quality, and it does mean a little bit of the Taiwanese dollar weakness. At the
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
But overall, the long-term trend in the last
5 trades on NAS there again. All
but here, of course, today,
buys.
the narrative, the geopolitical events, you are seeing a little bit of that return to dollar strength relative
20, 34, it's about another 50. We're about $200 up at the moment in 2 minutes.
Safe havens. What fascinates me, John, is you have a 10-year yield. We've gone from 325.
So I'm going to wait now because the candles, what have we got? We've got 1 minute 29, so this could be the breakout, in which case we just wait for the retest now. This will be the break. See, RSIs come out of the zone, trend bars green, everything's cool. All we really want is
consumer sentiment
wait on NAS.
Inverted. So rising actually correlates with the white line
30
index. Who knew we had one of those?
30
bonus
bottomed.
You knew that. So certainly rising together, sort of a measure of misery and the consumer sentiment inverted, all rising here in tandem together.
Miserable. Taylor, thank you. About 3 minutes in, not you, but the story. That anyway. I'm going to catch up with you a little bit later. Taylor, thank you. Around the open then, we're down about a third of 1% on the S&P 500. Yields, they inflect just a little bit higher over the last hour or so. Now up about
You're looking for buys.
258,
30.
260 after being much lower this morning. At the front end, the 2 just south of 290. Up a couple of basis points on the
bounce back.
Still deeply inverted.
Here, look.
Negative 31 basis points. Lisa pointing out to me earlier this morning That is the deepest inversion we've got on 2s, 10s, going all the way back to the early 2000s. If you want a view on the risks around this equity market, you call Mike Wilson and Morgan Stanley. If you want to dream about a better future, you call Marko Kolanovic at JP Morgan, and this is what he has to say. Whether it's earnings or the Fed, we see a reset of investor expectations. Risk markets are rallying despite some disappointing data releases, indicating bad news was already anticipated / priced in. Kaylee Lyons has more. Hey, Kaylee.
Hey, John. Well, you can always trust him to be the bull. While a lot of people are calling the rally we've seen since the bottom in June,
brilliant, and we've got 5 buys cleared away on US 30 as well.
He thinks we could go higher and
dipped in there.
Into
Again, small lot size, just a 1, 0.1. Price to get 9, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, about $70 there.
Is getting worse. GDP down 2 quarters in a row. Call it what you want in terms of a technical recession, but anyway you look at it, it is a contraction.
So,
manufacturing sentiment, jobless claims, real earnings all weaker, and inflation
pullback.
is still running hot. So essentially, your view on the market may come down to whether you think that inflation data matters or the softer data, on the other hand, matters, and which one the Federal Reserve is likely to prioritize.
Drops.
Thinks the Fed is going to prioritize the fact that data is softening. He says we're in a phase of bad data now being interpreted as good.
I could pull left and see the zones we've got coming up.
Peak yields and peak inflation is playing out. And he also thinks peak investor bearishness has likely passed, with futures positioning the most bearish since 2016. So in theory, that could create a little bit of a short squeeze here. But of course, while Kolanovic is saying this, you have Credit Suisse warning about a Federal Reserve that may need to hike to 5 to 6%. Goldman saying it's too early to fade recession risk. And of course, Mike Wilson over at Morgan Stanley, ever the bear, warning about forward earnings estimates.
Kelly Lyons, thank you. Marko Kolanovic looking to own the
RSI red, stochastic red, trend bar
first half of the year. This man owned the first half of 2022.
break. It's 30, 3 minutes. That candle just kind of, again, I won't say that was the breakout candle. This will be if it finishes. Going on. NAS, 100%. Breakout, you can see it's just battling up against. Go higher. See where there's
we're staying long the long bonds.
Profits.
And, we think it's a great hedge against an equity portfolio right now.
Joining us now, Victoria Green, the G Squared. Victoria, great to catch up with you. Off the back of earnings season, I'm just reading your note. You're calling this irrational exuberance over middling numbers at best. Why is that?
Because none of the results have actually been that great, and they've still been rewarded. Look at Uber this morning.
Now still nice, bullish.
But everybody's excited because they might make money down the road.
What cable's doing?
So I look at this, and it's the battle between
Cable at the moment still above your cable line, so sells, but we're not taking any sell after the JOLTS news.
They're changing, they're stopping. But John, on the same hand, you have Amazon
30, see if that's going to keep lower.
Coming out saying, hey, no, we're making
and again, we'll wait for a retest. We'll wait for the stochastic to come back into that overbought zone, nipping in.
So the problem is we're setting up this battle of Main Street versus Wall Street. But if Main Street breaks, then the consumer spending breaks.
Got 2 minutes left.
70% of GDP.
So I can just lower this.
I really look at this and think that this rally's gone a little bit too far. So very nice to recoup what we lost in June, but the fundamentals.
This is the breakout candle
speak for a continued
that we're
we learned
seeing.
Something though from how this market's responding to some of that weak data, both the economic data and some of the pockets of weak earnings that you've illustrated, and that's essentially the point that Marko's making.
That was good because
Sorry, this is what he said. I'll repeat the quote. Whether it's earnings or the Fed, we see a reset of investor expectations. Risk markets are rallying despite some disappointing data releases, indicating that bad news was already.
So 22 trades taken, or green through scalping.
Now it's rally time.
Good.
But it can't be priced in necessarily.
So we're not in any positions at the moment now. We're just waiting to see if we're going to get a retest, a push up on US 30 before a further drop. Whether the news in 20 minutes will affect it as well, so hang fire.
And it all depends on where earnings comes in. So yes,
NAS now zone hitting that
no doubt about that. But it
distance back, and again we want stochastic ideally to be over gold.
Specifically, it hasn't been like
Get back in on
the dumpster fire
and
it's been better
range
than
about.
that.
You've got to be careful.
But that's not necessarily really good news. Just because it didn't
So
disappoint you
dropping
completely doesn't mean it wasn't still a bad earnings season. So I look at this and say, yes, things didn't get as
rounds.
bad as it could have been, but that doesn't
Bearish.
necessarily mean we're going to see the earnings growth to support multiple expansion and to support the S&P continuing to rally. You would really need to either put a high multiple on it, which speaks to the irrational exuberance, or you're going to have to see a tremendous second half earnings growth, but we're seeing more revisions downward than we are seeing earnings growth. So I just don't think the math backs it up. Not to be boring and look at the math, but how do you have this market rally? It's either going to be just a crazy speculative rally on multiples.
Nas did really well there. Nas was far. They were both easy. I mean, that Nas was obviously the winner because US 30 went against our trend bar. But if you saw that big candle, I mean, I did buy at the bottom, so little win. So now, see now.
How self-defeating do you think this rally is in the face of what this Fed is trying to achieve?
Yeah, and I don't think the rally helped the Fed at all, because the Fed actually would like the world to slow down a little bit, and it doesn't need the market on fire and everything speeding back up. The Fed is actively trying to be hawkish and slow it down. I think we have a long wait period between now and September 20th, and a lot of things can change. The Fed has some wiggle room. I don't necessarily think they were that dovish. So I feel like people are kind of like reading the tea leaves, looking for clues. Like, I don't know, maybe he's wearing a red tie and that means he's more hawkish or dovish. Like, at this point, I think we're parsing data that's not really there, because the data is not great. And I would argue, if we're arguing about the definition of recession, we're probably in a recession. So we look around, and if you look, and I think Europe is a big wild card, and I think Europe is facing a very difficult fall and winter with the gas crisis. I was reading an article this morning that it may push 1 in 3 or 1 in 8 British households into debt because they can't pay for their gas. And so how does Europe, having a recession, having this gas crisis, having a slowdown, that just tends to drag on us and U.S. profits? We still have a strong dollar. Yeah, we pulled back from the highs, but it's still historically strong. We're almost euro-dollar parity. And then you have China, which right now is a large wild card, both what's happening geopolitically as well as their COVID zero policies. So I look and say nothing macro and
That's a nice little rise on Nas again. Look.
This was more of a relief rally, in my opinion.
I would agree with you on the recession point. If we're discussing what is and what is not a recession, we're probably not in a good place. I'm there with you.
No,
on Europe, it sounds more and more like a synchronized global downturn. Throw in China too with the latest PMI data. Typically, Victoria, I'd be asking how that would in fact bleed into what's going to happen here in American markets and where I can hide. Now, is the
15 minutes or so to the news.
In that kind of world, and I typically
Sees your little pull back on.
this time?
30, see if that back to that side breakout. Now I think this JOLTS news is going to go on.
Because it's never different. I do actually think energy is not a bad place because of how the energy industry is handling this.
Higher than expected. Positive for the dollar.
And profits and cash flows back to shareholders. You saw all of the big ones: BP, Shell, Exxon, Chevron, crushing. Marathon Petroleum this morning on refining, absolutely crushing their earnings, having massive free cash flow. And they're giving that free cash flow back to their shareholders. They're not investing it. So we are still seeing constrained supply. We have OPEC meeting Wednesday, but we actually think OPEC's probably around max capacity. We don't think, even if they
sell. Hope you caught the sell.
don't think they're actually
You went for it.
able to increase the
30. Should have got the sell.
All eyes on the demand
We caught the bottom.
recession, but as we've seen with the tight labor market right now, we haven't seen
breakout. So again, you really want if the RSI to be back in the neutral zone or plastic to be in a sold zone. You don't want to be taking a high risk. Yeah, it could go
and they had great results. And Devon at
down. Looks good, but you really want to wait for some kind of confirmation. Trend buy still saying we're buying.
So it's almost at the point companies are seeing some slight small.
Yeah, it's not the ideal size 7. Goes 75. Maybe we've got
large profits. Devon's only 20% hedged. So yes, I think it's a good place to be. You may be jerked around by oil
but he's still dropping.
as news comes out. But energy markets, because they're not wildcatting, it's no longer drill, baby, drill. It's here. Thank you, shareholder, for hanging with me. Here's your money back.
So you came very close to saying, Git, that it might be different this time to what some people might expect, that energy can perform in an economic downturn.
You got me, John. That's right. I may regret that statement here.
Victoria Green, you're going to stick with us. We'll build on this story. Thanks for being with us too. Your equity market's shaping up as follows. About 13 minutes in, we're down by 0.5% on the S&P. On the Nasdaq, we're down by 1/3 of 1%. We'll return to the energy story in just a moment. Up next, oil turning higher with OPEC on deck.
Our base case is for oil to
We'll
continue to drift
look
down.
at oil as well. So
Seeing
look.
Brent in the mid-80s and WTI in the low 80s for year end.
That conversation up next.
5 minutes.
The
Yeah.
world can be a noisy place.
Stock prices are set to soar.
But what if
They
under
were-
all the noise was opportunity? Join more than 3
Level.
million users in over 100 countries and be empowered
Neat.
with capital.com.
Yeah, look. Got some zones to work with. See. To give us an that Texas from. You can put daily pivots in there. There's lots of different things you can put zones. You know, I like to do my own.
Federal Reserve, of course, raising interest rates by 75 basis points again.
Where are the job cuts to come from? We will not just cut and run.
With unmatched reach and resources from more than 120 countries.
Okay, we'll trade oil later on. Back to NAS. NAS, here we go, look. Pick out candle. Yeah, it's going to hit that T of. If it goes higher here, we will get in on the bar. Fix it.
What did you learn? Did you always think that you'd be an
And-
entrepreneur?
Probably yes. Which is a bit sad, isn't it?
Wait.
Well, maybe, I'm not sure.
US 30 is just pushing back as well. Said it could go back into our breakout zone before the news. See if we get a still trend bar still showing red, so it could be just a pullback, but the Castic's coming into the right zone, look, oversold now. Crossing. RSI to get back into it.
How you started by you went to Florence. It was in Italy, and you started handbags.
Yeah, so
It needs to be the opposite way for us to take another sale. So.
When I was about 60, one of her old handbags, and I remember how it made me feel. And I think fashion is fascinating for the mood changing, the confidence boosting aspects, so the sort of tribal aspects of what fashion does. And so I went at 18 to Florence, knowing that was the home of leather goods, which is what interested me. I just wanted to learn actually and be surrounded by craftsmen who, I mean, making things is important, and that's going to be very interesting. I think over the next sort of 10 years, I think the onshoring of craft and manufacturing is going to be fascinating actually. I mean, I watched the offshoring, I literally saw it, and I think we're going to be seeing that coming back to local. We have to. When we're all looking at our objectives in terms of carbon, you know, proximity is going to be key.
We've got about 10 minutes.
Our base case is for oil to continue to drift downward. It's seeing Brent in the mid 80s.
The
WTI
news,
in the low 80s.
US 30 goes reverse on the news, all goes with it.
And then continuing on that.
Sometimes you get that, then the dollar will
2023.
stronger, so sell pound dollar. Now it's selling now. We're almost at neutrality with our cable lock 0-0, so kind of system invalid trade if it hangs on. Wait. Or trend bar.
Well, I think there's a great deal of uncertainty as to what the OPEC Plus group will
Asia.
do or what they can
See,
do.
look.
The expectation at the moment is either for another very small increase in output quotas or potentially no increase at all. And that would, I think, send a signal that President Biden hasn't got the increased output that he wanted
that
from Saudi
TP
Arabia,
look
and
dropped right
potentially
back.
set up a tighter market
Cast it
going
down
into the winter.
again. You could take
a belief that after the meeting with the Crown
Prince
Mohammed bin Salman,
and we
we
want
might
to
see
wait.
signs of
Wait for this news
success
event to be out of the way.
over the next couple of
Main
meetings.
thing.
What would you look for?
I think success
Could
would
get
have
a
to be measured by
up on US 30. Could
agreement for
down to our
more
level.
supply coming
No.
on in September and
Don't want to
October.
sit on
And
your
critically, I
wait
think
for them.
that would be a reallocation of some of the
Kin.
underperformance by countries like Nigeria, Angola, and potentially even Russia to
Looking
those
good, though.
countries who can actually boost output, like Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates.
Julian, we understand the US perspective. The White House wants more supply. We understand the politics of it. We understand the economics of it. Can you help me understand the Saudi perspective just a little bit more, with a little bit more color? As they might see things, looking at China right now, growth's not tremendous. Looking at Europe, they've got problems. Looking to the United States, clearly decelerating. The global economy, the backdrop here,
Just loving this support zone. That is cool.
what is their perspective?
This Stochastic's looking good. Want it to cross up into our zones. Gets into our zone here. We're looking for the buys. Looking for RS. But it's just a counter trend buy. A full on buy because of red and zone. So red you take is a risky one, but against the trend, just scalp it. Back. Breakouts.
In bringing Russia into their market management mechanism. They don't want to upset Russia and push it out of that mechanism now. And I think that does reduce the wiggle.
Green, staying green. Just want to see it flip up.
Even if they wanted to raise output,
In close to 10 minutes to go.
To help control global inflation.
9 minutes.
To do that perhaps is constrained.
And we've got the Fed speech, so we'll see how that manipulates the market.
We'll be reading the tea leaves over the next couple of meetings.
We'll recap for tomorrow. Tomorrow we've got some Aussie PMI news. Midnight my time, so time the Asian Open session. Retail sales, PMI for the Chinese. Balance of trade. DAX, good kind of opens. Some PMI. Spain. German PMI. UK, Italy, Euro 1 ignore, and PMI, what an eye, them, factory, press,
You're getting it from Mary Daily
in
right
time.
now as well. The 2-year up 7 or 8 basis points to
Building
295.
up.
Back with us for a final word, I'm pleased to
Crude.
say, is G Square's Victoria Green.
Chance of it.
Victoria, just on the Fed speak, are you starting to hear what you expected to hear from Fed speakers?
Yeah,
Kind of
I
a
think that
low.
they're a little confused what they want to do as well, which is why I think you're seeing kind of some of these battles, you know, battle royale versus the econs. Can we get a soft landing without destroying unemployment? And
Now it's just ranging, so I'm waiting for this news.
so we're gonna have this fast and furious data
US
rush.
30
We've
is
got
looking
way
to
too
break
long to sit
lower.
around and cogitate about what they're gonna do in September. So I think they still have to hike. Yes, possibly June was peak
And,
inflation because the commodities have rolled over, and we saw that with the PMI numbers where the input costs are down about
So-
18%. But you're still in a very inflationary environment, even with gas prices
Cost.
moderating some. You know, you're still
High
high
hit.
food, high housing
But
prices,
no.
and we need to see what the trajectory of that's going to be. The Fed has to hike until it really breaks more towards normal.
We just got no
2%
momentum.
Is their baseline, and so I'm not sure though that if we
to
can
work.
live in a world where the Fed funds rate gets to 3.5, 4, and the 10 years at 270, like that is a steep inversion, and that, if you're reading the tea leaves of the yield curve, bodes poorly for recession. So I think the Fed has to stick the course. I will put the caveat: September 20th
On a
is
good
awfully
support
close to
line.
elections, and that's very hard sometimes for them to be very hawkish
Breaking it.
going into an election.
Breaking
and I know
the
it's not
zone.
supposed to be, but we live in a world that
Not
is
trading
highly
because
political,
they are
and
waiting
they're
for the
gonna have
news.
a
Much
lot
as I
of
want to
pressure
jump
not
in
to
on
go
there.
75 basis points, especially if inflation
Sense
data
of
has eased a
sit
little
on
bit. So I'm going to throw that
dealers.
out there that meeting is happening very close to elections.
And if we see the labour market data weaken as well, President Daly's saying this: looking at jobs and CPI data to see if we can slow the pace of hikes. And we'll all be looking to payrolls on Friday and ultimately CPI next week on August 10th. I just want to fit this in, just quickly, Victoria. We're all waiting to see if Speaker Pelosi lands in the next 30 minutes or so. How are you navigating this issue at the moment? An issue that has the potential to be so significant, yet maybe so insignificant over the next coming days.
I think the keep calm and carry on is the best way through this. The high probability this is a non-event is there. There's obviously the black swan risk that this blows up into a massive geopolitical conflagration, and we do hope everybody stays safe, and we'll be holding our breath to make sure the trip goes well. But also how China reacts to this trip, because this is an escalation of our acknowledgement of Taiwan, which China has drawn some lines in the sand. So this is certainly poking them a little bit to see how they respond, and we'll have to see if that also drags on the world. If China takes this as an affront, they're very much about saving face. So we just hope everybody stays safe.
Victoria Green of G Squared. Victoria, wonderful. Awesome to catch up with you. About 23 minutes in, equities are lower. Your trading diary. Up next.
Pulling back, you see, that's what it's sensible not to take the buy unless this.
I'm a terrible trader, right? But last night, this is what
You
happened.
still are a terrible trader, right? Oh. See what we can get. US 30 broke that zone. Going to push down on this news. News is worse than expected. It's looking at 11 million job opening last month. Why? Or job openings or less. Perfect.
A digital-first approach to the future of work is where the industry and all companies will be heading.
But the future of work not
And dollar cable trade is, oh, it's just above, so kind of like selling, which means stronger. That's what we JOLTS. We'll get a nice 10 pip drop. Yeah, exactly.
Whether you know it or not, you'll probably be working there in the future.
We're moving into a world where we're going to be interacting with computers with our bodies.
Well,
this is definitely trippy.
I think the adoption curve is going to be slow.
It's weird.
Like a weird
Ah.
thing right now.
Oh, look at you.
If
You
I
have
could
no
have
this.
It's kind of a fun world, and we're just at the very beginning of a very long journey.
Why do the biggest names in business choose Bloomberg?
That is a great question.
It's a great question.
Great question.
Great question.
That's a question I get all night.
Bloomberg, top experts, great questions. Season is here.
Everything I've read has just got the R word. Resilience, not recession.
Earnings are expected to be so weak that I think.
So we'll be looking at a cheeky sell. This.
Breaks the numbers first.
We get a deluge of
We might be looking at buys on US 30 Nas, who knows?
With exclusive.
Look at US 30, just putting back in. Look, we've made some zones here.
Consistent, not actually showing a real picture that goes one way or another.
Bloomberg Television and Radio. The fastest numbers and analysis you
2 minutes to go, guys. JOLTS job opening.
Live from New York, here's your trading diary. Coming up, JOLTS data at the top of the hour.
Go.
Speaker Pelosi expected to land in Taiwan in the next hour. Fed officials speak throughout the day. Evans, Bullard, Mester and Daly. Some data through the week.
PMIs, as we just
with
said.
payrolls this Friday. From New York, this was the Countdown to the Open.
Thank you, John. Thank you, sir. Cool. See if we can. Bye. Grandboss still saying red. We're curling. I'm watching the curl up on the stochastic. That's what I'm interested in. RSI, you know, going back. Good. Again, we'll just nip in and out on the piece. We've got 1 minute 30 seconds to go, everybody. So load up.
Indian city of Jamnagar is a money-making machine for Asia's
Background as always.
His company Reliance has the world's
30. Let's watch the countdown, everybody. Seconds 49. This is it. Good luck. Some final trading, some final true scalping. See where the cables. Yeah. Well, look as that potential sell. See what we get here.
But Ambani is not alone.
30 to
India's second richest man, Gautam
break out.
Adani, has committed $20 billion of investment over the next decade. But India's massive dependencies on
It's going to see it's going to be a big difference, this figure. More job open.
Sincerity of those green ambitions and those of its two biggest billionaires.
Seconds. Good luck, everybody. Everybody's pretty waiting for this news.
Today's CFOs are reshaping the C-suite, positioning companies to meet the next generation of challenges, breaking out of traditional.
0.698, so it's worse than expected.
MasterCard is building on its core business, branching out into new products and services. It's up to CFO Sachin Mehra to ensure this growth strategy pays.
Push that into the group, worse than expected. So.
Chief Future Officer, Wednesday on Bloomberg. Brought to you by Workday. Everything
Just
you need to get set
really
for the
going to
start
get
of
away
US
with it.
Bloomberg The Open with Jonathan Farrow. Drilling down on the numbers and preparing you as only Bloomberg can. Weekdays on Bloomberg.
Ken Griffin is moving both Citadel and Citadel Securities to Miami. The scoop was broken by Bloomberg's Amanda Gordon.
Brilliant. We managed to get 3 trades away there. Just a quick $15. News. Just get out the trade before it hits that support zone.
Led Pepsi to print more winning caps than they planned. The resulting chaos caused riots, civil unrest, and even deaths. Reporting this story took over a year and it resulted in me flying to Manila in the Philippines to meet unlucky winners and to find out exactly what happened back then in the 1990s.
JOLTS will go back in if it picks that zone, of course.
My name is Jeff Maish. I'm a journalist based in Los Angeles.
What Naz did. Naz also sold off on jobs news result. Back. Again, the break was to the upside. Looking for cast it to curl up high on. Get back in on the high longs. Soon. 30. Yeah, see, I did well to get out of it. It touched that zone. Look, it was dangerous taking a trade. See, I say stochastic is still curling up, so that, you know, we might get a bit more movement to the downside than a push up. So we're gonna look for, see if this flips as well. Look for some buys. Going to be the call. Here's our breakout to the top side. Come back for retest. Green. Retest. Off that. I think it wasn't massive. Hey, still worse. Just a back. Range for quite a long time. Fantastic now. Up. So let's see if we can catch some buys in a minute. Strong onto trade. We're still bearish 65%. Current volume. We traded 79% of the usual daily volume. Still got a lot to go. This could be a little. Let's have a cable. Got cable. Look at that. Straight in. Hit TP on the sell. Use. Look at that. NY cable, like the Asian cable. Perfect for our breakout. Got to there, it was just slightly, we were just that sell, we had a red trend bar, we had pips. Dollar is stronger on that news. 30s trying back. Good. Breaks this level here, in for the buy. It's above our base. We should see the setup. Gotta wait. Cable, that was great. That. Trades 10 pips. All you need. Again, curls, we had a break to the upside, so we're looking for buys on as. Below our trend baseline at the moment, so we need to just eating RSI's in the new. We've got a red on the trend bar, red on the orange. One has. Six, 5. Brilliant, excellent. 5 beautiful sales like that. Another 100 and there's 5 trades, $30 each. It's easy stuff. Look at that. We had red, red, red. Right, that's now we wait. Again, the bar's illuminated by green trend bar, green stochastic, least RSI. Successful. Be good. About 20% up on our account. Got out of that sell, look, it bounced back. Why? That's why we got out of the sell, because here is an area that supports. Look, you need anything telling you that, and you need a bigger time frame to zoom out and see the level. Exactly where I drew it bounced from. You'd never be greedy, smaller time frame. Take the pip. 6. Get out and wait for the bounce. It goes red again, you get in again. All what 30 now. This could be strong, bearish. 90% on our volume dashboard. Stochastic is curling up still. RSI's still looking to sell. Your hands. My advice. Good when you see it like this. All your zones out, you see it come down, it bounces off. Indicators, but you're already ahead of the game. You're knowing the pattern that's going to form here, or the just gives you that extra. Want to see in the zone. This is your buy zone. East to the breaks here, buy again. Talking 100 pips. This is a great zone. If gets back into there. If it doesn't, here selling. That's all you need to know. What you want to do is just all these 3 items, B3 sync together. At the moment in a range, stochastic green sign the other, so it's this range. Still can scalp this, want to. See it break this. One way or the other. The waiting game, a lot of this is, even on a 5-minute time frame, a lot of waiting, jumping into quick draw trades. Apart from the open, you saw me do it, 21 trades, I went with the trade, got in, got out, took my way, rest of the trade solidly on price action, got the SI. See now a nice rejection. Up. Once I get excited, once it gets into our baseline, start to take notes. And you can set alerts built into the axe trading system as well. That's a good setup you like. Still looking, yeah, I'm still 56%. I'm still thinking, in the back of my mind, I'm still thinking buys, even though we're selling. I'm always thinking the opposite. Just think as enter. Good to watch. Remember, we're only 45 minutes in trading, 20% up. Here, 3D, we just take bigger percentage. MACD is still telling. Selling. Assets telling us buy. Size. Cable. Should have got it straight away on. Going to be a sell. Again, if it's only been again, but see. Big rate. Still money to be made. Time sync like can check. Red on the trend. Red, but green here. Look, RSI coming out there. My favorite trade, Mac. Stochastic. So what you got to do is just wait. So it's easy because human nature is to steam in, get in. I want to. As a same thing. Sell on. Neutral on the side. So right, it could be a good moment to end the stream. We've done 45 minutes. It was just a quick one because I like JOLTS. Like I say, we're going to be back end of the week doing another live stream. Favorite trade month, which is all's successful. Last, well, I think at least 24 months, 2 years worth. So we'll go in on gold again. Looking to be a significant drop amend this as all, make it isn't a statistics, but the forward light of day is it's 100k less drop. Yeah, nobody knows. Looking at how the JOLTS has gone, have got jobless claims tomorrow. It could be seeing a slight in the job. This leads to a technical recession, or in a recession already, US and US. This is where it's all data driven. This result is higher than obviously technically it wouldn't be a recession. Jobs have all have done historically every time out and out. This is going to be a key. If this is way under, say 100, then that's a big reason then the Fed will hike rate. Decisions again tomorrow, like the bad for credit cards, you're borrowing, pushing us closer to a recession. Get it 2%, so we'll see. But sorry, Thursday. Cable respond. Going to be going to pay more bills, basically. It's 30 now. Look, now I'm getting interested. Look, his size back into the bar could be flipping. See if we get back into the zone, like I say, the rejection as we do. First hits baseline to get the rejection. FOMO. Anyway, we'll watch this. We'll watch US 30 and see if we get back into the buy. NAS is ranging. Again, we are looking for a buy on NAS. Here, but US 30. Thank you all again for joining. Hit the subscribe button if you've not already subscribed, so you get updates of when live streams, and learn how to join the Discord group. And NFP is going to be all scalping. Great stuff. Right, well, enjoy the rest of this session. Happy trading, stay safe, stick to your rules. See you all on Friday for NFP. Till then.